Good morning, welcome to Planet Mojo. The vineyard looks really nice this morning. What I'm going to do today is mix up some fertilizer and broadcast it by hand. And here's the fertilizer. We have 150 pounds of potassium and 50 pounds of 10-10-10, and that also has 13% calcium in it. What I'm going to do is put one of each of these in these 3 tubs and then try to divide this 50 pounds equally amongst those, get everything all mixed up, and then divide it again into 5 5-gallon pails. One pail is going to be used for each row. Without further ado, let's get started mixing this stuff up. I wish there was a better way to fertilize the vineyard. I've thought of a few. I've thought of inserting pipes into the ground between the vines and feeding the vines directly at the root, but filling the pipes would be a problem. Oops. A little bit of a mess. Not a problem. The amount of fertilizer I'm using is just a guesstimate based on what I used 2 years ago, and I took a tissue sample for that. But basically it's very high potassium and a low amount of nitrogen and phosphorus. I'll take tissue samples again next year, but for this year, this should do just fine. All right, now let's mix this up. You should do your fertilizing right before a rain. That way the nitrogen will get pushed into the ground and used. We don't want to add a whole bunch of nitrogen. Let me see if my hands will do better. I'm bending my mixing spoon. Anyways, if you apply the nitrogen and then it doesn't get washed in for a long time, it's going to evaporate to some extent. It'll flash off into the air. But as far as air goes, air is mostly nitrogen to start with, so that's not a problem for the air. It's just a waste of nitrogen. All right, that should do it. 2 more to go. Fertilizer can have all different kinds of looks, but the potassium, at least in this area right now, is usually like a pink color, but I've already got potassium that look like rock salt. The white stuff is going to be nitrogen, that's urea, and this brownish colored stuff is the phosphorus. Oh, and the white colored stuff is also calcium, but that's a little bit more gray. But again, it can be wildly different colors depending on how it's mined or manufactured. Some fertilizer is mined and some is manufactured. Okay, now let's divvy this up into the 5 buckets. Alright, the wind picked up a little bit, but I think I'll be alright. Now, I just got to go down to the vineyard and get this spread. I think I can fit about half of these into here, maybe a little more than that. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to go. And I'm going to have to set this, looks like, all the way that way. It looks like that's the only way I can get it to spread to one side, but we'll find out when I get down there. I will be getting back with you when I'm on, like the 3rd row. I don't want to do any recording on the first couple rows because the wind is coming out of that direction and the neighbor has their garage door open and I don't want it to look like I'm talking to myself out there. Okay, let's get this done. Okay, looks like I have a little more than half in here. Yeah, that's a little more than half, so I'll have to adjust the speed of my walk and the speed that I crank this thing, but that should be pretty easy. Alright, let me go figure out which way I have to walk to get this to spread correctly, and like I said, I'll get back with you on like the 3rd row or so. Okay, what I'm finding is that I have to fill this up twice and go up and down the row twice, and sometimes there's a little bit left. Even if I go as slow as possible and turn the crank at a higher speed, I can't get rid of it at the rate that it feeds. So up and down twice and a little bit more will get rid of the whole bucket. Alright, here we go. Row number 3. This thing is pretty darn heavy. Alright, that is wide open, and unless I walk at a slight angle, it'll go a good deal into the row. I don't mind if it goes into the row, but I want most of it in the... Wait, I have that backwards. I want most of the fertilizer in the row and not in the aisle. The grassy part is the aisle. And some of the places where the leaves are a little bit further into the aisle, it just hits the leaves and drops into the aisle. But the other side, I can get a lot more into the row because it's more open on the other side. The vines all lean towards the west. When I'm done with this row, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's going to look just like this one. It's going to have quite a bit of potassium in it. And after the first rain, or maybe a couple rains, you won't be able to see it anymore. But it stays within the top 3 inches of the soil, and it'll remain there until the plant uses it. Unlike nitrogen, nitrogen can pass through the soil, but in this case, there's only a little bit of nitrogen in here, and it's going to rain tonight. So that'll get washed into the soil, and it'll basically be used within a day or two. The vines should get almost all of the nitrogen. The phosphorus is going to remain locked in the soil as well. There's very little phosphorus and very little nitrogen in this mix. You can see that I can hit the entire row from this side. That's not me whistling. That is my spreader. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to tell, but at this application rate, there is just no way that I can use up my full 40-pound bucket, which is about what those buckets are, 40 pounds per row. There's no way I can spread that all in one pass up and down like this. So I'm going to go top this off when I get to the end of the aisle and do it again. Alright, these controls are clumsy. Alright, we'll fill this up and make another pass. Now I have pretty much a full container of fertilizer. And I got to get rid of it in just these 2 passes. These vines look awesome after their pruning and spraying the last couple days, and after the rain tonight, either right away tomorrow or the day after, these vines are going to look just magnificent. And we'll get some really nice ripe grapes out of this. Kind of hard to tell, but it looks like we're about halfway in the container and halfway in the vineyard. Some of this stuff is obviously going to wash into the grass, and that's no big deal. The vines have roots into the grass as well, but the grass can use a little fertilizer too. If you watched the other videos, I've just done 3 videos in a row. One was taking the disease out of the vineyard by hedging the plants, and yesterday I did 3 sprays. One was to kill all this stuff in the rows, one was to protect the vines, a fungicide, and one was to kill the Japanese beetles. And looks like all 3 of them were successful. The killing of the weeds in the row will take a bit longer to show up, but there is no Japanese beetles that I've seen, so that is pretty obvious. All right, timed it out just perfect. We are completely out. Okay, that's going to do it for the fertilizing, and that'll be it for all things vineyard for at least a couple weeks, I believe. Yeah, look at all that fertilizer, and it's right on target in the row where it needs to be. Tonight we're going to get a rain. Hopefully that washes all of this into the ground, but it doesn't really matter. It'll all wash into the ground eventually. And like I said before, this potassium and the phosphorus are incredibly stable in the soil. So they'll go into the soil and pretty much stay there until they're needed. The nitrogen is a lot more volatile, But like I said, it's going to rain tonight. That'll go into the soil, maybe 3 inches. We're only going to get like 1/4 of an inch of rain tonight. So the nitrogen should go in a short ways, and it should be used up 100% by the vines right away. Good, good, good. It looks like a lot of fertilizer, but it's actually not. They recommend that you fertilize with like 6 pounds of potassium per vine per year, but that's way too much. I believe this is about 2 pounds, and it's going to be just right. Okay, I think I'll come down here and do a short in maybe 2 or 3 days, and you'll see how different these vines look. They look really good right now. All of this stuff is the spray from yesterday. Like I said before, I did the triple spray yesterday. And as you can see, there are no Japanese beetles. So I killed all the stuff in the rows. I protected the vines themselves, and I got rid of those pesky Japanese beetles, all with 3 sprays yesterday. If you want to see that, I'll put the links to the last couple days in the description below. It's been a pretty interesting few days. Okay, so look forward to that update video, and again, it'll be a shorts because there's not going to be a whole lot to see. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe and click on the update icon. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you put them in the comment section below. And if you share the video and or give it a like, it helps the channel out greatly. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.